You know what's crazy is like 2 weeks ago, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago. Last week I talked about how the previous week there was a snow slash ice storm here, right? So as I woke up this morning and went outside to take care of our chickens, tried to be, a good supportive homesteading husband and let my wife stay inside in the warm. We've had record low temperatures, and over the last 2 days, there's been just horrible wind gusts. So while the temperature has been in like the 20s or whatever, the wind chill factors probably made it like feel like the teens. It was terrible. I had to actually walk across my whole front yard, across the street into the front of my neighbor's yard to retrieve the recycling bin because the trash can and the recycling bin both took a dive. And it's not like anything would stop it anyway because, oh, yeah, there's still several inches of frozen snow, ice, whatever, like all over the lawns. Like I can still, if I want to walk to my shed right now, I'm walking on solid ice to get there. Maybe every once in a while it crackles or I break through it. Nuts. I don't think I've ever seen snow or ice stick around this long. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I am so sick of ice. Really. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fall of Sanity. It's I, your humble host, Fritz, here for another week. There's a lot that's pissing me off lately. And I think it's because today, I sit down and I record today, Sunday, February 8th. And I think part of the reason that I'm so pissed off is because how my feeds on YouTube, I guess, primarily it's just YouTube. I mean, I do have Substack, and I go through that feed now and then as well. But other than that, I mean, like I have my own podcasts that I listen to. But a lot of the dialogue has been around today being Super Bowl Sunday. And the thing that has really been just irking me is the push from a certain side of society over the Super Bowl halftime show. The Super Bowl halftime show this year features an artist known as Bad Bunny. Now, I don't know anything about Bad Bunny. I literally have my phone pulled up right now to figure out that Bad Bunny is a Puerto Rican rapper, singer, and record producer, and that he's dubbed the king of the Latin trap. And he's credited with helping Spanish language rap music achieve mainstream popularity worldwide. And he's considered one of the best Latin rappers of all time. And I do know that he is the top, he's the top streaming artist, 4 years running. Not 4 years in a row, but 4 times he has been the most streamed artist on Spotify or via Spotify, something along those lines. And we're talking about in terms of billions of streams. And he had those awards in 2020, 2021, 2022, and last year, 2025. So I know that about Bad Bunny. And I know that MAGA, conservative side of things, immediately criticized this move about the NFL being woke, and the NFL's so woke, and the halftime show for the Super Bowl really should belong to, an American citizen. An American citizen should headline the Super Bowl show. Now, not for nothing, but it hasn't traditionally and always been an American to headline the halftime show. Okay. What, Rihanna did it in 2023. 2021 it was The Weeknd from Canada. 2020 was Shakira. 2016 was Coldplay. 2010 was The Who. The Rolling Stones did it in 2006. Paul McCartney in 2005. Shania Twain. I bet a lot of people were like, well, Shania Twain is American. No, she just sings country music. She's from Canada. Sting from the UK. That was 2003. U2 in 2002. Phil Collins in 2000. Along with Enrique Iglesias. And so, it's not like it's controversial to have a non-American act at the Super Bowl. It's not a foreign concept. The other thing is looking at the Super Bowl halftime show. Okay? Football fans. This is cited statistics now. Roughly 49% of football fans that are going to watch the Super Bowl every time don't care about the stupid little commercials or the halftime show. The Super Bowl, those aspects of the Super Bowl, the commercials and the halftime show, are a draw and aimed at people who aren't football fans. That's always been the case. That has always been the case of the Super Bowl halftime show and commercials. Get people who aren't hardcore football fans watching. Get casual fans to want to watch. Get people who might not even be interested in football together at a party because, the commercials are going to be funny, or we want to watch the halftime show. So the appeal for that has never been, let's satisfy the football fans, because the football fans, this is NFL mindset now. The football fans don't care what's there. They're there to watch the game, and they're going to be there for the game. So they're not gonna give a damn. That's not their focus. All right. What do you think the top 5 most watched Super Bowl halftime shows were? Think about that in your head. Some of the names that I just named out there from the international acts, right? The top 5 most watched Super Bowl halftime shows lead with last year's halftime show, which was Kendrick Lamar. 133.5 million viewers. The second highest was 1993, Michael Jackson. 133.4 million viewers. Usher comes in third at the 2024 halftime show with 123.4 million viewers. Rihanna in 2023 was 121 million viewers. And rounding out the top 5 is Katy Perry in the 2015 Super Bowl with 118.5 million viewers. The 2025 performance by Kendrick Lamar set the new record, obviously drawing more viewers than the game itself in some instances. That's the draw. That's what the NFL and the advertisers and the corporations carrying it, that's what they're aimed at. They're not aimed at the football fans. They're aimed at the people who aren't football fans. There's also been a modern era peak. Since the NFL has partnered with Jay-Z/Rock Nation in 2019, that's been a 2019 partnership, the ratings have remained high with strong engagement among younger demographics, 89% of Gen Z, apparently. Okay. Michael Jackson's benchmark still remains the definitive transformative show in viewership history. They still link it to 1993 Michael Jackson. Okay. But regardless, sometimes the halftime show outdraws the actual people coming to see the game. In some cases. I want to couple this with the fact that so many people out there namely the MAGA conservatives. This is the funniest thing on the face of the planet to me sometimes. Because these guys won the election, right? So Donald Trump won the presidency. They're in the hot seat. They have control of the House and the Senate. Yet it's not good enough apparently for them. So these people will go online, they'll bash this halftime show with Bad Bunny. And I'm going to get to a very particular incident where you're going to see information being skewed by the right. Ooh, can't believe that they would skew information. But I'm going to point out something specific that I saw over the last couple of days that I find laughable when it comes to the data aspect of things. These people will say that, the NFL ratings have been in the shitter for years and they've been on the decline and it's gotten worse and worse year after year. Except if we go and look at the data. So let's go to the data. Okay, let's take a look at the data. All right, starting with let's round this out. We're at 2026, so I'll look at 2015 and on. Okay, so February 1st, 2015, on NBC, Super Bowl 49, 114.44 million viewers average. Super Bowl 50, 111.86 million viewers. Super Bowl 51 on Fox, right around the same ballpark, 111.32 million viewers. 52, Super Bowl 52, the Super Bowl in which the Eagles won the Super Bowl for the first time ever. Go Eagles, go Birds. I hope that pisses some of you off. 103.47 million. So a little bit of a dip, but not a major dip by any stretch. Super Bowl 53, 98.48 million. Okay, we're in the 98s, but it's still not mega huge. 2020, 101.32 million viewers. Where are we? 55. 95.2 million viewers. So still in the ballpark there. It's probably the lowest rated one. But then we got 56, 99.18, 57, 114.21, 58, 120.25. 120.25. And then last year's Super Bowl is 127.7 million viewers. Don't know about you, but that's not that heavy of a fluctuation. It's not that heavy of a fluctuation. And last year's Super Bowl is the highest viewed Super Bowl to date. The highest viewed Super Bowl to date. Now, let's talk about halftime shows. We'll go back to the 2015 Super Bowl again. So Super Bowl 49. 121 million viewers for the halftime show. Super Bowl 50, 115.5 million. That's actually more than the game itself. Okay? 51, 117.5 compared to 111. So, again, higher than the viewership of the game. 52, 106.6, higher than the game itself. 53, 98.2. So, 98.48, 98.2. There's actually a dip in those numbers. A smidgen of a dip. Let's see. 54, 104, higher than the game itself. 55, 96.7, higher than the game itself. 56, 103.4, higher than the game itself. 57, 121, higher than the game itself. 58, 123.4 higher than the game itself, and last year's 133.5 higher than the game itself. The Super Bowl draw, the Super Bowl halftime show draw, is not towards football fans. It's not towards football fans at all. And it's hard to come up with a draw that's going to appeal to the majority of football fans. It really is. When 49% of them don't give a damn anyway. That's not their focus. Their focus is to watch the football game. They don't really care about the halftime entertainment. Why? Because that's when we take our shit break, our piss break, and we refresh our snacks. That's what the Super Bowl halftime is for. That's what commercials are for. That's what actual football fans do during the halftime show. Which really, this is really where it becomes bizarre to me. Why, especially MAGA people on the right, where their disgust and disdain of the Super Bowl halftime show is, where the outcry is, because it's really not that important on the grand scale to football fans. Maybe at 49%, maybe, okay, well, it's roughly half. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's the football game that they're watching. So I don't get the outcry. I don't get this big push for what Turning Point USA has said is their halftime show. Their halftime show is going to, it's quote, the All-American halftime show is an opportunity for all Americans to enjoy a halftime show with no agenda other than to celebrate faith, family, and freedom. An agenda. And that's being headlined by Kid Rock. Kid Rock, of course, who wrote a song in 1997, back when maybe he was relevant, called Cool Daddy Cool, which has the lines, young ladies, I like them underage, see? Some say that's statutory, but I say it's mandatory. Ooh, good for faith and freedom. Yeah, that's a headliner right there. My God. Woo! They also are going to have other country acts. Brantley Gilbert, who most famously has Dirt Road Anthem and Bottoms Up. Lee Brice, known for One of Them Girls and Rumor, and a young female 2020 winner of the Artist of the Year, Gabby Barrett, as their halftime show. And they're going to stream this as counter-programming to the Super Bowl. And I've seen person after person hype this up, talking about I'm not turning into NFL's satanic festival show, this, that, the third thing, and we're taking our game back, and this is the real halftime show. So counter-programming the Super Bowl is, I mean, does it happen? Sure. Does it matter? No, because the historical trend is that they maintain their ratings or they get even higher ratings. Now, Bad Bunny, I already stated, is like the fourth, or has 4 times been the highest streaming artist in the billions of plays. So what I expect to happen is that they're going to have similar ratings to last year's Kendrick Lamar's show. They're going to either have similar or better because it's so quote-unquote controversial. And I can't wait to see the reaction afterwards, because I'm sure Turning Point USA, if they even release the streaming numbers, if they even have access to the streaming numbers, if they can guess that, it's going to pale in comparison to what tuned into the Super Bowl. Now, I'll give benefit of the doubt. I will. I'll give benefit of the doubt. Maybe they do somewhat compete. I don't really see that happening. The last time that somebody counter-programmed the Super Bowl halftime shows successfully was Fox in 1992, and Fox did it with In Living Color. You remember In Living Color? It was the show that had it was sketch comedy. Had the Wyan brothers. I am right in thinking about that. Hold on, because now it's making me need to search. Now it's making me search because I can't freaking remember. Yeah, Marlon Wayans, the Wayans brothers, right? Jim Carrey was on that show as the token white guy. You guys remember that? That was the most successful counter programming that ever occurred in Super Bowl history, and that was because Fox didn't hold the streaming rights, and they drew 29 million viewers, and that prompted the NFL to change how they look at their halftime show. So I'm speaking from like a business standpoint here of research and experience that they went through. That was the most successful counter programming. In the 90s and 2000s, MTV ran Beavis and Butthead and their Butt Bowl during the halftime slot, just for other options that were out there. 1999, WWE aired Halftime Heat, which was a match between The Rock and Mankind, and I believe that was like an empty arena match as well. But I digress. 2003, NBC did counter with Saturday Night Live Weekend Update segment with Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey. And then, of course, there's the recurring ones that consistently happen that are far more famous, like Animal Planet's Puppy Bowl. Hallmark Channel apparently has a Kitten Bowl tradition. There is counter programming. There's been counter programming. This is probably just the loudest counter programming I've heard leading up to it. And the thing is that this is how stupid I think we are. This is how stupid I think we are, is that now we're having warfare over media, like over entertainment. So Bad Bunny, this was another thing too. Let me go back to this, because one of the other things I saw cited was a poll of NFL players. And so I saw this a lot going around conservative media. Now, you have to understand the context of my YouTube algorithms, okay? I get in my YouTube algorithms, because of the content that I watch, a fun, lovely mix of different sides of things. And that's how I like it. I like seeing what both sides of an issue are saying. So, for example, I watch a lot of like Christian apologetics shorts. Some of it is Mormon apologetic shorts. And in counter to that, I also watch biblical scholars like Dan McClellan and Bart Ehrman, or I don't know how to say his damn name. Bart Ehrman, who's a scholar as well, specifically an American New Testament scholar. So it's clashing opinions. You know what I mean? It's what the apologist side says versus what the academic side said. So that clashes in my feed. Another thing that clashes in my feed is seeing clips from like Turning Point USA and some talking right-wing heads like Benny Johnson and other people, but it's countered with like the what's on the opposite side of the spectrum. So it'll be things like that I don't know his name, Parker on YouTube. It'll be like that guy. And then I watch, Breaking Point with Crystal and Cigar, and all this other, like, I try to balance this stuff out. I do. I try to maintain a balance so that I can get what both sides are saying, and then I do independent research of that to kind of come to what, where does Fritz sit on this? What is my actual view on what's going on? Now, I saw multiple reports of this where they were sharing polling data, and this is from The Athletic and the New York Times, okay? And this was posted online February 2nd. And it was, how do NFL players feel about Bad Bunny playing at the Super Bowl halftime show? And so they they had this poll that they sent out to NFL players to answer, especially because in the right-wing circles, this Bad Bunny decision brought a lot of ire. It brought Turning Point USA coming out saying that they were doing big counter-programming, loud noise, really, all of it. But the poll that they sent out was, do you like the NFL selection of Bad Bunny for the Super Bowl halftime show? And 58.6% said yes, while 41.4% said no. Now, those percentages paint a pretty, not necessarily 50-50 picture, but it paints a picture that there's a lot of dissatisfied players, right? 41.4% not liking the selection of Bad Bunny. They had they also, in the poll, they did ask for data, and this is kept anonymous from the players. So, for example, an NFC offensive player said, quote, "I don't even know who Bad Bunny is. I always think it should be an American. I think they're trying too hard with this international stuff." Let's stop right there. Bad Bunny from Puerto Rico, a United States territory, ergo a United States citizen. So it is an American that's headlining the Super Bowl. It's an American. No matter how much you might hate Spanish people, it's an American person that's headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. Okay? Said a different NFC offensive player, quote, "I do not like it. I'd prefer anyone who's synonymous with football and football culture. I feel like there's tons of artists out there who are fans of the game." Sure, but what is synonymous with football and football culture? Let me start pulling up the Madden soundtracks and see what predominantly is on like the Madden NFL football soundtracks. Because I'll tell you right now, it's probably not a mix. It's probably not a mix. It's probably grafted from the top charts of the music world. Probably. I don't know. But other players were quoted as saying to have a different perspective. One NFC defensive player said, "I've heard of his music, obviously, but I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not a big fan. But I do think it's cool to have him because America is based on diversity. America was built on immigration, so I feel like having him just furthers that American dream. I like it. I like the choice." Another NFC special teamer said, "I love the culture behind it." And an NFC offensive player who was adamant the NFL bring in country music back to the Super Bowl said, quote, "I don't know who Bad Bunny is, and I've never listened to his music, but I saw on the year-end data he's the global leader in music streams. It makes sense wanting to make this a global performance. Good for ratings." Then they had another fun aspect of this. They had some other ones. So they had some that weren't devoted fans, but they're excited. An NFC offensive player said, quote, "I think it's pretty awesome. Some of his music is really good, man. When I was training, I heard it in Florida. I heard his music all the time, and it's a bop, man." And then another NFC offensive player said, "Heck yeah, it's going to be a good time. The girls like Bad Bunny, so of course we're going to like it." And then an AFC defensive player said, "It's a little different, but I'm a fan of changing things up, exploring different musical genres." They then went on to ask for their opinion on their dream Super Bowl halftime performer. Didn't matter if they were alive or dead. Didn't matter if they had performed or not. And the results of this poll led with Michael Jackson, then Drake, then Beyonce, then Chris Brown, then Travis Scott. So there's that data. Now, this poll was being cited by a lot of people online as even the players don't like the selection of the Super Bowl halftime show. 41.4% are dissatisfied, except they're leaving out a key point to this poll, which is that it was 58 votes, 58 anonymous NFL players were asked to participate in this poll. 58 players. Do you know how many players there are in the NFL? You know what? Let's go a step further. They interviewed 58 people. You know how many are on a roster for just one team? Just one team has a 53-player active roster. They only suit up 48 players on game day. But they have 53 active roster players, 16 to 17 on their practice squad that aren't included on that, and teams can have up to 90 players before their final cut during the offseason and training camp. Okay? But there are 1,696 active NFL players. And this poll polls exactly just a smidge more than an active NFL team, and there's 32 fucking teams in the league. And I saw conservative outlets passing this poll around, talking about almost half the NFL players don't agree with the decision. Well, 41% ain't almost half. Dummy. But when they only interviewed 58 fucking people, and you're going to sit here and talk about this poll, that's asinine. That is an asinine misuse of information. Probably just throwing it out there, knowing that most of your audience is just going to smile, nod, laugh, share, and not actually find the damn data themselves. That's asinine. That's ludicrous. And that's what has been filling my feed up these last couple of days, and I can't wait till it's done. I can't wait till it's done, except I would let it go. You know, I would just let it go. I would not engage with it, except it's so out there and rubbing it in your face, like trying to slant, like trying to talk about this, that, and the third. Like, I almost can't ignore it. And I'm going to go back to it because I'm going to check the numbers afterwards. So we'll see what happens on a revisit of that. We will. But the other thing that has been plaguing me when it comes to the right, and people listening, realize this. I'm not left. I'm not right. I am politically lost. In the middle. I'm an independent person. I don't have party loyalties to anything anymore. And I was a Republican growing up. I was a volunteering in high school at the local public Republican headquarters during not during the 2000 election when Bush first got elected, but the 2004 election. I was a diehard Republican. I was a diehard Bush supporting Republicans. Probably one of a handful of kids that didn't hate George W. Bush's guts at that time. That's who I was. That's the side of the aisle I was on. That was the life path that Fritz trajected on. Then I voted for Obama. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do this real quick to kind of set the picture, right? So I volunteered with Republicans. I worked with Republicans throughout my high school career. Sorry about my whistling cup. It's stupid, but it was a Christmas present. So, it's cool. So I did that through high school. First election I can vote in was 2008. And I could not in good conscience support John McCain and the Tina Fey lookalike. I'm sorry, Sarah Palin. Couldn't in good conscience support John McCain and Sarah Palin. So I said, you know what? Here's Barack Obama. It's hope, it's change. Let's go all in. So I voted for Obama. Pretty much instantaneously regretted that. At least, well, not instantaneously, but by the end of it, I regretted that decision. So 2012 rolls along, and I'm all in on Mitt Romney. I'm all in on Mitt Romney. Why? Because Mitt Romney is a businessman. Mitt Romney knew how to take failing businesses and turn them around. Mitt Romney has the experience. We need a business guy in the chair to run America because we need a business mind there. We haven't had a business mind approach to this, and here's a successful business guy in Mitt Romney. And it was like, it was the one time, I think, in my life that I reluctantly vote. Well, I kind of played myself. I said I was all in on Mitt Romney. I stayed behind Mitt Romney. I voted for Mitt Romney. But when I walked out of the voting booth, and I mean immediately after walking out of the voting booth, I sat there and I said, I just voted for a guy that I don't even really like. I knew I wasn't going to be voting for Obama again, but I didn't like the choice that I made for Mitt Romney. So that brings us to 2016. What did I do in 2016? 2016, I had learned, between 2012 and 2016, I had learned a little bit about independent politics. And I had learned that, oh, wait, there's other parties. They're not successful in nearly anything, but there's other parties in America. There's the Green Party. I remember Nader. When he was running with Bush and Gore. I think people gave him a lot of shit because he took votes away from Gore or something. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking, right? So, oh yeah, he's Green Party, Nader. Okay, so there are other options, maybe. And I remember Gary Johnson. From Republican debates, which also brought up Ron Paul. Oh, what is this? So now I learned about libertarianism and the Libertarian Party, and I go all in, gung-ho, happy as shit in 2016 on the Libertarian Party and Gary Johnson. And if you don't believe me, just go look up Fritzcast. Go find it on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Go look up Fritzcast and go look up the episodes that I was doing from 2015 when I started it on. I was all in on the Libertarian Party. I interviewed a lot of Libertarian candidates, a lot of Libertarian media people, did all that. Happily voted for Gary Johnson in 2016. Got shat on by the world for doing it because, oh, you helped get Donald Trump elected. Even though the Donald Trump guys were like, oh, you're going to help Hillary Clinton get elected. Except I'm a smart person and I know how the Electoral College works. And my state has 3 fucking votes and they always go blue. So it doesn't really matter how I vote for the presidency. Does not matter. And we can save that spiel for another episode. So that was my long roundabout way of saying, like, if you're sitting here and thinking, man, this guy's a fucking lefty or whatever, I'm not. I'm really not. Because when I criticize Trump, it's not me saying, oh, Kamala should have been the president. Not really, at least anyway. My God, I had to actually pause and re-listen to some of what we just went down that rabbit hole. I apologize for that rabbit hole, but context, we need it. The other thing that's been plaguing me this week is these goddamn Epstein Files. My God. And this has also been, by the way, another comical point of contention throughout the last couple of years in my book. Because when Epstein first got picked up, there was a lot of controversy and a lot of, digging into stuff. But he was alive then. And then all of a sudden we have his unaliving of himself. Except, there's conspiracy around this too, right? So I'm not going to sit here and proclaim to know the truth. I think there's a lot of fishy stuff. And I'm not going to pull out the tinfoil hat right now and go down rabbit holes that don't need to be gone down at this moment. But I've watched this discourse flip-flop so terribly, where prior to Donald Trump's reelection, right, there was a lot of talk about a big part of Trump's campaign was about these Epstein files, And a lot of the backlash or the bite back was Democrats or that side saying, these stupid people, there's nothing in these files. There's nothing to these files. There's nothing. And then Donald Trump becomes or wins the election, becomes president for a second time, and immediately backpedals on the files. And his people kind of did have some backlash, but not any significant backlash. And then we had to have this back and forth uphill battle. Now Democrats are, the files are out and Trump's in them, but so are people on the left. People on the left are in the files as well. And now there's this pissing contest going back and forth over the files. And it has come full circle now. Listen, I'm not saying that there's not important things to be discovered in these dumps and dumps of millions of files from the Epstein files. There are, right? We've seen some ramifications with some individuals with it. We have seen that there is a very elite group around the world that have this high and mighty attitude about themselves. Right? This goes back to, I mean, I don't know what people want now, because it's like, oh, if you popped up in the Epstein files, right? Oh, you must have done something bad, except they're world people, so they're talking about things and they're talking about people. So you could be in the file, like you could be mentioned in the files. That doesn't mean that you went to the island or participated in other nefarious activities and such. But some of the I don't know, the backpedaling, the senseless justification, the this, the that, the finger pointing, the blaming, and all that. But none of it's going anywhere. Okay, like the funniest thing that I find in there is Elon Musk's messages back and forth, which Elon, remember having his falling out with Trump and all of that. Elon talked about how, he's not releasing the files because he's in them. And I've seen them. That's what Elon had to say about it. But then Elon is in it, in this dump of stuff. He's in it, exchanging messages with Epstein, practically begging to be part of the wildest parties that he's going to have and stuff. And now it's just, I mean, like, it's moving of the goalposts. It's associations and things like, up to the election time and just after the election, conservatives love Elon Musk. Now they're being quiet on Elon Musk because, and they're backpedaling and talking about how he's weird. But what was really funny is that before he signed up on Trump stuff, it was fun to bash Tesla and talk about how Cybertrucks look fucking dumb and things like that. And here we are again. And it doesn't matter that the files are being released. It really doesn't. Like, at the end of the day, old school Fritz back in the high school days probably would be all gung-ho about the Turning Point USA halftime show. Yeah, let's boycott and prove our faith and show off, all this grandiose stuff on our own thing. We're going to do that. Counterculture, we're going to do that. Probably would have been all gung-ho on this crap, all gung-ho on the Epstein file. Like, release the files and let's get convictions out of it and all that. And everybody that wants to add to that noise, I mean, at the end of the day, what's going to come of it? Not all of it has been released, by the way, and not to mention the fact that they released a bunch of shit and didn't redact things that they were supposed to. And I'm not saying that in a nefarious way. I'm talking about after they released certain bits of the files, the victims of Epstein were bringing up court and suits immediately following because there was information that was supposed to be redacted that wasn't redacted. Oh my God. This is insane. And so they're releasing the Epstein files. Big whoop. What? A bunch of sleuth online journalists are going to dig through emails and text messages of a guy and look through all this stuff and look through all of this stuff and find a smoking gun that's going to bring somebody down? No, nobody's going to be brought down because of it. Literally nobody's going to be brought down because of it. So it's just noise at this point. That's not me saying that we should forget about the whole thing. That's not me saying we should forget about the whole thing. But I am saying that we're not going to see action, and we're not going to see people who need to pay, and we're not going to see proper investigations be done because we're not. Probably because the stakes are too high for two important people. Not two as in two individual people. Too many people, too many hands in the pot, too much at stake. And we're probably not going to see much of anything from it. That and what? There's still some 3 million documents that remain unreleased. To the degree that I think it's just another chess piece on the board of keeping people distracted, keeping people divided, keeping people talking about things and looking at certain things while other things are going on, because you can't see what both hands are doing. Right now the hand is what? Epstein Files, but also ICE in Minnesota, but also Bad Bunny halftime show. Also, like, what's the next distraction that's going to be thrown out there to make us forget about other things going on or not notice other things going on and keep us at each other's throats? That's what I see it as anyway. That's like more and more I've come to this conclusion that amongst our leadership, we have a very, very sad lack of maturity in our leadership, and that we're not going to get it. And until somebody can come up and sort through this crapshoot, that we're going to be stuck in the mud with our wheels spinning for quite a while longer. Like, for those people who think, if we can just get through these next 3 years of Trump, so we can be over and done with it, I don't foresee that happen. This isn't just a who's sitting in the hot seat issue anymore, and I'm not sure how we move forward. I mean, I know how I, as an individual, can move forward. I'm talking about as a whole. I don't know, because we don't have mature leadership. We have leadership that is based on tribalism. It really is. The hive mind is real. Like, the tribalism is real. Everybody is doubling down and boxing themselves in their comfort zones because they want to be surrounded by the same people, the like-minded people, and they don't want to have tough conversations. They don't want to face tough situations. They want confirmation of things that they already believe. And more, I am not that kind of a person anymore. More and more, I don't care if I'm in the middle being hated by both sides. I'd rather be in the middle being hated by both sides than be conforming to one of those sides just to feel like I fit in. And I don't know who stands up and says, hey, let's all grow up, because it's not a thing. It's not a thing anymore. Good quote came to mind this week from James Garfield. That was a politician, by the way. That wasn't a goddamn cartoon cat. But the quote is, "Now more than ever before, the people are responsible for the character of their Congress. If that body be ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption." That was from James Garfield. Now, that was just about the Congress. It has since expanded to probably all facets of the government, unfortunately. But that's where we're at. And I don't know who today's James Garfield is to stand up and really handle the situation. But I have a feeling that we'll talk more about it. I have a feeling it won't go away, but I've done enough ranting today, mostly on this Super Bowl thing and this whole counterculture thing. I might want to do a deeper dive into looking at that at some other point, but this is where we stand. I want to get through this next week coming up. Next week, we might be revisiting some of these topics. Who knows? There might be some interesting things to talk about after we have some cold, hard fact numbers to look at with this. But I'm hoping next week maybe I take a little bit of a break from the politics. We can't keep it too politically, right? I mean, we've been there, but maybe we have to focus a little bit more on philosophy or something next week. Maybe talk a little bit about spiritualism or something along those lines. I don't know, but we'll figure that out. But let's wrap this up the way that I always do. I appreciate you guys coming and listening to the show, all right? Because I know it's roughly 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes of me ranting. But I hope that you walk away with something out of it, whether it's just a new perspective, maybe data that you didn't know about that gives you some more context, or maybe you just had a couple of yucks, while you thought about some of the insanity that I think about sometimes too. So thank you for tuning in. Just do me a favor. Just share it with a friend. Share it with a friend, somebody that you think might enjoy it as well. If you do that for me, you'd be a great friend. You'd be doing me a huge favor. You can follow me on YouTube at The Fall of Sanity. If you look up Fritz Fallen or The Fall of Sanity on YouTube, you will get to our YouTube page where we have clips from the show. We have stupid little AI videos that I make that piss some people off and make some other people laugh. I'm on Substack as well, Fritz Fallen. That is linked in these show notes and on the Fireside page as well. You can follow me at all those locations, and if you want to reach out to me, it's fritzcastpodcast@gmail.com because I refuse to create a new email address right now. That's that. You guys have a great weekend and a great week. I'll be back here in the hot seat next week, hopefully with some other type of thing to talk about. I love you guys.